TBI Can Cam flexed biceps is tumbalamler, Part 1, Final, Tech Parka Halland, Boslixus VX6s, Tame Manakisi V Seslander my hazard bison burlisterilmus tam metin backhand index pointing down. The world had been waiting. Months of silence, rumors, and whispers had turned Can Yaman's name into a mystery. Every photo, every brief appearance, every unanswered question added more fuel to the fire. But no one, absolutely no one, expected what happened that night. When Can finally decided to speak, it wasn't through a glossy magazine, a staged interview, or a carefully crafted PR post. It was real, raw, and emotional. And the words that came out of his mouth changed everything people thought they knew. He appeared on an Italian talk show, invited to talk about his career, his upcoming projects, and life after fame. But as the cameras rolled and the host gently mentioned the name everyone wants to hear, Demet Özdemir, the entire room froze. The audience leaned forward. The host paused. And Can smiled faintly, almost painfully, before whispering, "If you really want to know the truth, it's time I finally speak." No one expected what followed. His voice was calm, but his eyes told a different story. There was pain, nostalgia, and something deeper, something that had never truly faded. "People think I've moved on," he began. "They see my life now, my work, my travels. But what they don't see is what I carry inside." The host tried to interrupt, but Can lifted his hand slightly and continued. "I'm not here to defend or explain. I'm here to be honest, for once." The studio was silent. The viewers watching live felt the intensity even through the screen. This wasn't an actor giving a performance. This was a man confronting his truth. "I made mistakes," he admitted. "I lost people who mattered. I tried to bury emotions under success, but some things don't stay buried." His gaze dropped for a moment. Then, looking straight into the camera, he said the words that would be replayed across social media for days: "Some loves never end, they just stay silent." Within minutes, those words exploded online. Hashtags like #CanSpeaksOut, #UnendingLove, and #WorldInShock trended worldwide. Fans shared old clips of him and Demet laughing on set, comparing his words with moments that suddenly seemed more meaningful. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, producers were in disbelief. "He wasn't supposed to say that," one whispered. "This wasn't in the script." But it didn't matter. The world had already heard. As the interview continued, Can opened up more than ever before. "There was a time when love and chaos felt the same," he said. "We were young, intense, unstoppable. And maybe that's why it couldn't last." The host's voice trembled as she asked, "Are you talking about Demet?" Can didn't answer right away. He simply smiled, the kind of smile that hides both love and regret, and replied softly, "If you know, you know." The clip ended, but the story had just begun. Around the world, headlines screamed, Can Yaman finally breaks his silence, and fans are in tears. People weren't just curious anymore. They were emotionally invested. What did he mean? What happened between them? And why now, after all this time, did he finally choose to speak? The next morning, the entire internet was on fire. Every major entertainment outlet, from Italy to Turkey, from Spain to Brazil, had only one name in their headlines: Can Yaman. News anchors played clips from the interview again and again, dissecting every pause, every look, every breath. Social media was flooded with speculation, screenshots, slowed-down videos, and translated subtitles spread like wildfire. And the most repeated line of all was the one that had shattered the calm of the night: "Some loves never end, they just stay silent." For his fans, those words weren't just nostalgia, they were confession. Within hours, the video had over 10 million views. Hashtags like #Can Yaman Demet, #He Still Loves Her, and #WorldInShock dominated Twitter trends. Instagram was full of fan edits showing moments from their past, behind-the-scenes laughter, stolen glances, and the kind of chemistry that could never be faked. It was as if the whole world had collectively decided to reopen a chapter both of them had tried so hard to close. But while the internet was celebrating the return of a love story, one person was silent. Demet Özdemir. In Istanbul, Demet sat in her living room, the TV muted but the image of Can frozen on screen. His eyes, the same eyes she once knew so well, stared back at her. She didn't move. Didn't blink. She just watched him, replaying the moment he said those words. Some loves never end, her heart tightened. She whispered, almost to herself, "You shouldn't have said that, Can." But deep down, she wasn't angry, just overwhelmed. Because no matter how far she had come, how much she had grown, there were still pieces of her heart that responded to his name like a reflex. Her phone vibrated constantly. Messages from friends, journalists, and even old co-stars asking for her reaction. "Do you want to make a statement?" her manager asked gently. Demet shook her head. No. Not yet. She wasn't ready. Not for the headlines, not for the questions, not for the emotions she had spent years burying. Meanwhile, back in Rome, Can's team was in chaos. His manager stormed into the room, frustrated. "Can, do you realize what you just did? That one sentence has turned the internet upside down." Can looked up from his coffee, calm but distant. "Maybe it was time," he said quietly. "People think they know everything, but they don't know the truth. I'm tired of pretending." The manager sighed, pacing back and forth. "You know what this means, right? Every interview, every event, you'll be asked about her." "I know," Can replied, staring out the window. "And maybe that's okay." That night, as the city lights of Rome shimmered below, Can sat alone on his balcony. The cool wind brushed against his face as he replayed his own words in his mind. Some loves never end. For the first time, he didn't regret saying them. There was a strange peace and honesty. But on the other side of the sea, Demet wasn't at peace. She lay awake, scrolling through her feed, seeing the world turn their story into a fairy tale again. Except this time, she knew the truth, the pain, the distance, the things no camera ever captured. And yet, despite it all, she whispered into the dark, maybe he's right. It was a confession no one heard, but it changed everything. By the third day, the storm had grown too big to ignore. Every headline screamed their names side by side, Can and Demet, the love story that never died, Can's emotional words stir the whole world, Demet's silence speaks louder than words. Even news programs that usually avoided gossip couldn't resist the story. Because this wasn't just celebrity drama anymore, it was emotion, truth, and nostalgia wrapped into one unforgettable moment. Demet tried to live her normal day, but there was nothing normal about it. Everywhere she went, people stared. At the cafe near her house, the waiter smiled nervously and asked, "You saw the video, right?" On her way to the studio, fans waved signs with her name and Can's written together, reunite. "We miss you too." She forced a smile, but inside, she felt torn apart. That evening, she locked her phone away and tried to focus on her new script. But the words on the page blurred. Every line she read reminded her of him, the way he used to rehearse with her, the playful arguments, the laughter that filled the room after every scene. "Stop it, Demet," she whispered to herself, her voice trembling. "It's in the past." But was it really? She got up, walked to the window, and stared at the city lights. Somewhere far away, he was probably staring at the same sky. Memories came rushing back like waves, the way his hand felt when it brushed against hers on set, the long nights they spent talking about dreams, the look in his eyes when they said goodbye for the last time. Her chest tightened. She could still hear his voice saying, some loves never end. And for the first time in years, she let herself cry, quietly, without holding back. Meanwhile in Rome, Can was dealing with a different kind of chaos. Every producer wanted an exclusive interview. Every TV show wanted him to clarify his statement. His phone wouldn't stop ringing. Yet all he could think about was her silence. Why hadn't she said anything? Was she angry? Hurt? Or did she simply not care anymore? He scrolled through his messages, stopping at her old number. It was still there, untouched, unchanged. His thumb hovered over the screen, then froze. No, he muttered. Not like this. He couldn't just text her after years of distance. It had to mean something. It had to be real. That night, he recorded a short video, not for publicity, but for his fans, hoping they would finally understand. Sitting in dim light, his voice was calm, almost whispering. When I said what I said, he began, I wasn't trying to make headlines. I was trying to be honest. Sometimes life pulls people apart, even when their hearts never stop remembering. The video lasted only 30 seconds, but it went viral within minutes. His words reached millions, and one of them was Demet. She watched it alone, sitting in bed, her heart pounding. It wasn't a performance. It was him, the same Can she had known years ago, stripped of ego, stripped of fame. For a long moment, she couldn't move. Then, almost without thinking, she whispered, Why do you always find a way to speak when I've finally learned to stay silent? Her reflection in the screen looked fragile, like a memory she wasn't ready to face. But deep inside, something she thought was gone, something warm, something painful, began to stir again. By the end of the week, Demet couldn't escape it anymore. Her name was everywhere, trending hashtags, news panels, talk shows. Every outlet wanted her reaction. Will Demet respond to Can's emotional confession? They asked. Her silence, once powerful, had now become its own headline. For days, she avoided interviews, hiding behind her projects. But even on set, she could feel the eyes on her. Crew members whispered, journalists waited outside, and her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. The world wanted an answer, not just from the actress, but from the woman behind the camera smile. That morning, her manager entered the room cautiously. Demet, they invited you to La Voce Italiana. It's live, prime time. They want to talk about your new series, but you know they'll ask about him. Demet looked out the window, silent for a moment. Then she took a deep breath and said, Maybe it's time I stop running too. Hours later, under the soft lights of the Italian studio, she took her seat. Cameras rolled, music faded, and the host greeted her warmly. The audience applauded, but there was tension in the air, everyone knew what they were waiting for. They started with simple questions, her new project, her travels, her love for Rome. She smiled, graceful and composed. But then the host leaned in slightly, her voice gentle. Demet, the world has been talking about you in Cannes. Did you see what he said? The room fell silent. Demet's eyes flickered, her lips parting slightly. She hesitated, searching for the right words, but her voice, when it came, was calm, real, and full of emotion. Yes, she said softly. I saw it. A murmur spread through the audience. The host waited, giving her space. And, what did you feel when you heard those words? Demet smiled faintly, a tear glimmering at the edge of her eye. I felt everything. Memories, pain, gratitude. You don't spend years sharing something so strong and then forget it overnight. But sometimes, silence is the only way to protect what's left. Her honesty stunned the room. There was no anger, no denial, just vulnerability. We were young, she continued. We didn't always understand the weight of what we were living. But whatever happened between us, it was real. That's all that matters. The audience burst into applause, but Demet wasn't done. She looked straight into the camera, as if she knew exactly who was watching. I don't know why he chose to speak now, she said softly. But if what he said was from his heart, then I hope he knows, I heard him. For a moment, it felt like the world stopped. Across the sea, in his Roman apartment, Can was watching live. When she said those final words, he leaned forward, eyes wide. There was no misunderstanding this time. He whispered to himself, she heard me. Within minutes, clips from the interview flooded the internet. Fans were in tears. Asterisk, she answered him. Asterisk, they wrote. After all these years, she finally spoke. And just like that, the silence between them, the silence that had lasted for years, began to crumble. That night, the world held its breath. The internet was once again alive, not with speculation, but with emotion. For the first time in years, both Can and Demet had spoken, not through scripts or characters, but through truth. Their words weren't about publicity, they were about closure, or maybe, a new beginning. In Rome, Can sat by his window, watching the city lights fade into the horizon. He had replayed Demet's interview over and over again, each time catching a detail he'd missed, the softness in her tone, the way her eyes trembled when she said, "I heard him." He smiled faintly. "You always knew how to say everything without saying much," he whispered. His phone buzzed. Dozens of missed calls from reporters, agents, and fans, all ignored. But one message stopped him cold. A simple notification, from a contact he hadn't seen light up in years. Demet. His heart started to race. For a long second, he just stared at the name, unsure if it was real. Then he opened it. Her message was short. Only 6 words. "I hope Rome still feels the same." He didn't think twice. Within the hour, he was out the door, jacket on, heart pounding, camera flashes trailing behind him. The world didn't matter, not tonight. Back in Istanbul, Demet was packing quietly. She had no grand plan, no expectation, only a feeling that maybe some stories weren't meant to stay unfinished. Her assistant tried to ask where she was going, but she only smiled and said, "Just following a memory." The next morning, Rome woke up to whispers. Fans spotted Demet at the airport, alone, with her hood up and her heart exposed in ways only love could reveal. Headlines began to spread, Demet flies to Rome after emotional interview. Hours later, she stood in front of the same bridge where it all began years ago. The bridge they had once walked across hand in hand, laughing, dreaming, believing they were invincible. The air was cool, the city alive, and her heart was louder than the crowd around her. She looked down at the river and took a deep breath. "You said some loves never end," she whispered. "Let's see if that's true." Behind her, footsteps. Slow, certain, familiar. She turned, and there he was. Can stood just a few meters away, breathless, his eyes locked on hers. For a moment, neither spoke. They didn't need to. The years, the distance, the silence, all of it dissolved in that single glance. Finally, he took a step forward. "You came," he said softly. "I told you," she replied, smiling through tears, "I heard you." They stood face to face, the city moving around them, cameras clicking in the distance, but none of that mattered. The only thing that existed in that moment was the two of them, and the truth they could no longer hide. Ken reached out, gently brushing a tear from her cheek. "You know," he said with a shaky laugh, "the world's going to lose its mind over this." Demet smiled, whispering back, "Let them. We've lost enough time already." As the sun began to set over the river, they embraced, not for the cameras, not for the fans, but for themselves. Two souls who had finally found their way back to the place where it all started. That night, social media exploded with photos of them together again. But neither of them posted anything. No statements. No captions. Just silence, the good kind, the peaceful kind. And somewhere in that silence, the world understood, it wasn't a fairy tale. It wasn't fiction. It was love, unfinished, undeniable, unforgettable.